welcome to the SaaS Revolution Show. I'm your host, Alex Theuma, CEO founder of SaaStock. Delighted to be joined today by Fred Hohagen, who is the CEO and founder of Maplink. Welcome, Fred.
Thanks, Alex. It's great to be here.
Where are you calling in from today, Fred?
I'm in Madrid today, but I'm originally from São Paulo, Brazil.
Okay, very cool. Are you living between the two cities at the moment?
No, well, at the moment, my home is Madrid, but of course, I'm going like every 3 months to Brazil to be in contact with the company, with the rest of the company, the team. But we are like a very remote company. We have teams spread all over Latin America, and I'm sure we're going to get more into the details of this later.
Very cool. Brazil. I haven't been to Brazil since COVID, or like before COVID. I actually don't know how many times I've been to Brazil, but maybe I can't remember if I mentioned to you, I lived in Brazil for 1 year after I finished my studies, and I didn't want to get into work. So I thought, why don't I go and live in Brazil?
You're a gap year.
Yeah,
gap year.
Kind of, yeah. And it was very much fun. So a lot of affinity for Brazil, great country. A lot of great SaaS companies coming out of Brazil now as well.
A lot of great companies. Yeah, so it's a very busy SaaS ecosystem back in Brazil. Yeah.
Cool, Fred. So we always like to kind of start out and we ask our guests who are they as a person. So we won't break the trend there. Who is Fred Hohagen?
So I'm 45 years old, Brazilian. I've always been living in Brazil, and last summer I decided to make something new and try to see this if this remote work was really working. And I decided to move to Madrid. But I have a degree in advertising and marketing. Never worked for any advertising agency. Never worked with of course, marketing. I use a lot of Maplink. But I'm from São Paulo. Born and raised, always very connected with the region, with Brazil, and I'm working with Maplink since I'm 22. So basically, my whole professional life was involved in Maplink. So I was even before I finished my degree, I finished the university, I was already involved with Maplink, and that's how my life developed. So it's funny because I was talking with someone yesterday, and the person was saying so it's crazy how you were passionate for your what you do, your job, but this is my life, right? So today I'm more into Maplink than any other thing. So basically, I'm very passionate with sports. So I'm used to play squash until I hurt my back. Then from squash, I migrate to beach tennis, which is huge in Brazil, but nobody's playing in Spain. And now I'm a mediocre player of paddle. So I'm trying to get along with people here in Spain playing paddle, which is the national sport.
Very cool. And so 23 years at Maplink, and it's quite unusual, but as you say, this is kind of your life, your life's work. Well, what I see at the moment a lot is CEOs generally, and founding CEOs, when you get to the 10-year mark, they kind of, I don't know, they move into this kind of chair role, and something happens where they don't have that same sort of drive and motivation, or kind of they want to do something new. But for you to be 23 years, is pretty incredible. We could probably do a whole different podcast just on that. But tell us a little bit about the founding story of Maplink, sure. 23 years ago, and why this came about.
So of course, when Maplink was the idea of Maplink was to be at the time the MapQuest for Latin America, right? So MapQuest was what is Google Maps today for the rest of the world in terms of map system, you type in an address and finding addresses and route calculation. So the idea was to build the MapQuest for Latin America, and then we built Maplink. It was the year 2000, right up on the bubble burst, the internet bubble burst was a terrible timing for launching a company, especially the idea in the beginning was to be a advertised-based company. So the idea was to gain audience, sell advertising banners. That was the common thing on the internet, to monetize internet in the beginning, right? But we of course we very shortly understood that would be that wouldn't give us a long way to survive. And then we shifted and we pivot. We never call it pivot, but we decided instead of trying to sell ads on our website. Why don't we sell the service to other companies? And that's what Maplink is doing since 2001. So we provide geolocation and now a lot of logistics technology for other companies. So it's a 100% B2B business. And 95% of the time, the other B is way bigger than us. So we are talking about large, very large industry, very large companies in big industries. Like it's a very interesting moment to be. Well, not just now, but in the past like 5 to 7 years, it's a very interesting moment, a place to be involved in geolocation, because today, like almost everything that you do can have geolocation involved. So it's when in the beginning we were like a very niche, like a very specific segments that could use geolocation. And now you're seeing like this being used for, you name it, you can have an example or a use case for geolocation. Yeah.
And what data can you share behind the company? Obviously, we know that it's been running for a long time, but how many people work in the business? What
Sure.
sort of revenue? What are some of the things you can
Sure.
share?
So we are 80 people company. We have offices in São Paulo, Santiago, Buenos Aires, and also Mexico City. I would say that for 50% of our team are based in Brazil, and the other 50 is spread in those other countries. Maplink is targeting around $30 million in terms of revenue for this year. Mm-hmm. Of course, these numbers can change because of the FX rate. So as we still have a lot of our revenues coming from Brazil, it can vary. And we are a profitable company. Like we're going to talk more about this, but we are an independent company, no external investors. And we are always operating the business at the minimum of 25% EBITDA margin. And we're still growing between 25 and 30% year over year since the past a lot of years. This is we never repeated a revenue in our history, and we always grow in the business. Of course, we had times that we grew more and less, but in the past 3-4 years, we continue to grow at least 30% year over year.
Amazing. So 30 million revenue, 80 people. That's pretty good revenue per employee.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't done the
especially in South America, that the costs are lower than here in Europe.
Yeah, exactly. So great job. And like you mentioned that you were bootstrapped, you raised venture capital, you bought out the investors. We're going to get into that in a little bit. Can you just share outside of that, maybe some of the the biggest lessons that you've learned? Obviously, over a 23-year period, it's a long period, and there's probably going to be many. But some of the lessons learned in scaling the business 30 million that you can think of.
Sure, of course. So we had a very important moment in the company which was when we got the investment from our professional investors, right? So before that, we had some investors coming in, but it was more like people entering the company. So one very important thing to say is I don't know the demographic of your audience exactly, but look, building a company back in 2000 is completely different than building a company nowadays, right? Or even I know there is a very tough moment in the market, in the investment market right now, but even though building a company in 2000 was exactly the same as me or you or our parents open a mom and pop shop, right? So you can borrow some money from the bank, and you can be trying to get your money back for the first 6 months, but eventually in the 7th month or sometimes you have to be making money very soon, very short, right? Because otherwise there's no funding, nothing like this. So we in Maplink, we always had this mentality of we are operating breaking even after 9 months of the company, and since then we never operating in a loss. Besides when we had the investors in, and they asked us to burn money, to burn cash, right? So this is super important. So for us, the pivotal moment in terms of growth was, first of all, bringing an investor that allowed us to don't worry so much in terms of cash flow and everything else. So they allow us to burn some cash for certain things. And the second thing was the international expansion, right? So today, Maplink is 50% Brazil, but the other 50% is about our business outside of Brazil. So this international expansion give us some helped us not just in terms of revenue, but also protect us from national Brazilian environment, economic environment. So of course that we are not in a super stable region, which is Latin America. There's problems everywhere, but you're not only, we don't have only one, depending on only one country, one economy, right? So this is was another very important thing for us to gain and to grow faster in terms of the revenue. And another thing that I could mention that is especially for a company like ours. So it maybe is like sounds like not that important, but the account management, right? So being a company that is in 23 years in the market, we have customers that are with us for 15, 17 years. Imagine that we are invoicing companies for in a monthly basis for 17 years. So this account management for us, like being in contact with, be close to our existing customer base, it's one of the most important things. So we grow much more in our existing customer base than bringing new customers. Not that we don't do it, but it's very, very important for us to keep our existing customers happy, helping them to grow their business, because of course these companies they change completely in this 17 years, but of course we are like all the time with them and finding opportunities to grow our revenue and inside of this company. So this is, I could summarize like in this those three things that were the most important for us.
Very
and
cool.
Still being very important.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I appreciate there'll be many lessons, but distilling it down to those key ones, that's great. And so let's talk a little bit about why and how you bought out your investors, right? So how long did you bootstrap for before you raised VC?
So we were like an independent, like kind of independent company for 14 years, right? So the first time that we had like a professional investor, like I said before, like we had this people that was interested in investing, like helping us, like but nothing like nothing professional, right? So the first time that we had a professional investor, like was in 2014, which when Movile came in. Movile is one of the most active. They were one of the most active investors in Brazil. They were not just a investment house. They were like players. They were operational with their own business. And in 2013, 2014, they decided to diversify their business, and then they start to invest in companies. And Maplink was one of the investments that they made, right? So, and I have to tell you that from like the first 3 years, like from 2015, 16, 17, was fantastic. So Maplink wouldn't be where we are today without allowing or bringing an investor in, because again, they allow us to do things that you cannot do as when you're bootstrapping, right? So we would never go and expand the business to the rest of Latin without having an investor to back in us, right? So it's a risk, it's a high risk to do it with your own money or even with the money of the company.
So right? Was that the reason then? So like after 14 years, you know, why take this money? Was it like, we need to expand and, you know, this is the...
Well, I could tell you that in a beautiful way that, well, we decided, no, we tried many times to bring investors in. And I was first, the market was not ready for investments like this. Then the market was looking for 100% the investments, or 95% investments were towards to B2C. And then when we are trying to explain the business, was too complicated, or of course we were like a B2B company with this long selling process. So it was not something that it could scale in the pace that they want. So I could tell you that, no, for 14 years, we are not interested, but no, we tried. Okay. So especially from 2011 until 2013, we were very active trying to find an investor. We brought like a professional CEO to the company, but we never found the perfect fit until Movile came in, and we had this amazing ride for the first 3 years. But then we decided that Maplink was not anymore like a good fit for their portfolio, and we managed to find a way to go forward with the management buyout that we can get in more details. I'm completely free of any NDAs. I can share with you whatever I want at this moment about that.
Okay, good stuff, and we'll jump into that. So the 15 million that you took and the 3 great years that you had with that, did you spend it all, and how did it transform the business? Like, what were the benefits and of it, and then maybe some downsides?
Yeah, so just for example, when they joined us, we were like a company that were generating like I don't know around like 5 million US dollars in terms of revenue, right? When we left the investors, we were like already in the 20 million in
Okay.
revenues, right? So of course they helped us to, and why we jumped in terms of revenue was because they allow us to go internationally. They allow us to which is a super important thing, right? So when we were like bootstrapping, we were taking projects that was not exactly the best projects for the company, right? So they were taking a lot of time from the team for customizing projects. And so we were in terms of, for some clients, we were a software house dedicated to geolocation solutions, right? So we were customizing, then we are maintaining, we were making adjustments all the time. And we are doing this because we needed the money, right? And when the investor, the Movile came in, they allow us to choose what would be the best portfolio for Maplink in terms of product, and that was crucial because what happened, we had to call customers and say, look, we are not renovating the contract for the next year, and that's that we have you have 5 months or 6 months to find a new solution, and we can refer to some companies, but we are not keeping it. And we are not talking about small contracts. Of course, when you customize and you have this very connected or tight projects, you are charging a good amount of money, but they are keeping us from evolving in all the products or the projects that we felt that were important. So this is one of the good things that we had with them that allow us to choose the products or the product portfolio that we would invest in and keep going, right?
Okay. And then sort of 3 years down the line, as you said, you decided that you were no longer a good fit for them.
Well, so we start to feel like that we are not so they made a huge investment, and they made a good investment that became a huge company, which is today is iFood in Brazil, which is by far the largest food delivery company in Latin America. They dominate the market. They do an amazing job. It's a fantastic company. And of course, for Movile, it was if I was sitting on their chairs, I would also probably do the same. For every dollar that I had to put on Maplink, it would became a 3 or 4. But for every dollar that I'm putting on iFood, would be 15 or 20. So it was a very difficult way for us to keep working with them. And the other thing is we start to feel that they didn't understand our job properly, right? So this is another thing that for me, today when I'm talking to entrepreneurs or talking to people, don't let the investor do the due diligence on your company. Do yourself the due diligence on your investor, right? So if you have the chance, of course, if you have many options, try to understand the other side, if they're going to be able to understand your business. Because Alex, to be honest, I think until the last year of us inside of Movile, I had meetings explaining what Maplink was about, or what we are doing. So of course, when the CFO of the company that invested in your company, that was involved in the whole process, is still not understanding what you do, that's not a good sign, and that's probably it's not going to be easy to get money from these guys if you need it, right? So, and then that's when we decided that together with them to say that we should find a way to separate ourselves. It was not an easy thing to do because at this moment, Movile never an exit or divest. So their strategy is to invest from the long term. So it was not easy to find a way to get in a common sense in terms of guys, this is going to be good for you and it's going to be good for us, and let's move on. But eventually we found a way to do it. We sold, actually what happened is we sold one technology that we developed internally that was very connected with what iFood was doing. So it was an order management system especially for for fast delivery. So anything that need to be delivering between 15 minutes and 4 hours, we developed this platform that I could organize, connect with the available fleet, and then dispatch. And of course, it was a good fit for iFood. And then we managed to understand, okay, guys, so we can go to this way. So why don't you guys take the technology and instead of us using the money for Maplink, we just get into an arrangement to buy our shares back and make Maplink independent again. And then, of course, this is the easy way to tell you. It took us like 9 months. A lot of moments that we thought that we were hitting in the wall and without any solution. But eventually, we managed to get it in a good deal for everyone, right? So for us, we gained the control of the company back, and we Movile at the end was able to provide to iFood the technology and the people, especially that they need to move on with their projects.
Over those 9 months from start to finish, like how much time each week were you spending on, this?
90% of my time.
Okay.
90%.
Yeah.
So I was completely away of Maplink day-to-day operation. So everything that I was doing is making sure that the team that was deployed to join iFood, because we transferred 50 people, right? So from Maplink, they used to be people that are working full-time employees of Maplink that would be transferred to iFood, around 50 people, not just in Brazil, not just in Sao Paulo. We had people in Sao Paulo, people in Campinas, which is a city like a few kilometers away from Sao Paulo, and we had a team of in France. So it was like a super complicated thing to do. But so I was involved, guaranteeing that the culture would be aligned, making sure that everything was going smoothly as possible. And the other things I was together with my partners, talking with the lawyers, because we had like a lot of lawyers involved. It was like a tough 9 months. I think one of the worst 9 months or worst period in terms of the job that I was doing, because I was not helping Maplink to grow. I was not helping the business. I was just involved in making this deal happen, because otherwise Maplink wouldn't be here, right? So to be super honest, Maplink wouldn't be here if we never get to this agreement.
And so the investors originally invested 15 million to you. Did you have to return the 15 million and anything else? What was on top?
So we the thing is at the end so every year Maplink from when we start to operate with Movile, we decide to make Maplink break even or even losing some money in this period, right? So we are not. So we decide to let's not be profitable anymore. Instead of let's reinvest or bring more money from the investor to grow the business, right? So. The thing is that it's not that how much money we had to pay them, but so everything that we gave away or gave up in terms of the product. So the product that we sold to iFood was what we are seeing the next 20 years for Maplink. So in our minds at that moment, that would be the Maplink of the future, because we would be in a very innovative segment in the time, back in 2008, 2018, 2019. So all of this food delivery, super fast delivery, was just in the beginning, especially in South America, Latin America. So here in the US, especially, they were a little bit more advanced, but in Latin America was just the beginning. So Happy, Glovo, iFood, Uber was coming with Uber Eats. So all of these things were about to start, and we were ready to be the platform, the logistics platform for all of these. So we gave up on this to be able to manage in terms of to manage to get out of the investor and gain back the company. So was not just the money involved, was all of the people, the product, the investments we made in the project that was involved, and of course some liabilities, right? So me and my partners we put ourselves in a very risky situation in terms of liability. So every single liability that you can imagine, they put on us. And they said it needs to be on the contract, and it's going to be under your name, Fred, and under Moacir's name, and nobody else. That's the only two person. If you don't assign it, then you're not liable to all of these things. And it was not little money. We are not moving on with the deal, and we just look at each other and say, let's do it, because we really believe that the company has a future, a brighter future in our hands, and moving along than with the investors. And then we did it. What's the best decision of our life?
What was maybe the hardest or the most unexpected thing about buying back, or buying out the investors?
I think like to explain to the employees, right? So of course they are like they didn't know what's going on in the closed when we were like in closed doors in the meeting rooms with the investors, right? So and they were like for them was like we have this very nice investor with us, and suddenly we just come join the company. We asked the company for a meeting and said, "Look, guys, we're going to be independent again." So it was like a lot of questions in terms of like how we do you guys have enough money to pay our salaries? Like how are we going to survive? Or so how are we going to do it without the external investment? So this is one of the things. One of the things that was a challenge, like explaining to our existing for our employees. The other thing was with the customer base. Like again, it's like some of our customers, they were happy that we were like gaining independence again because they were like feeling that they would have access to Fred, Moacir, and Alejandro again because it was not a big corporation anymore. But I also like, well, guys, do you have enough resource to keep going in terms of product development, like new features and things like that? So I think it's more like nothing like a really very serious, but more like a mental thing in terms of like for even for both sides, for the customers and also for the employees, and of course ourselves. So like we were like very strong and very confident, but we didn't know at the time if everything that we were planning would go in the way that at the end it did. Right.
Reflecting on it now and looking back, do you regret taking VC money?
No,
No?
never. So it was like a fantastic decision. Again, the only thing that I would do differently was maybe more diligent on their side as well, right? So try to make sure that they understood what they were buying, right? So making sure that guys, you know that we are not a B2C company, that we have a limit in terms of growth. There's no way that so if it takes us like 6 months to close a deal, there's no way that you can double, tripling the company every year. So that would be the only thing that I would do differently. But it was the best decision we made at the time, and luckily we were like capable and lucky enough on managing to buy back the company. Also in a very good moment for us in terms of the size of the company and the maturity of the company.
Very cool. All right, we're going to move into the quick-ish fire round now, Fred. So a few questions here. What one thing has moved the needle the most for you in your career?
The international expansion, what I learned growing Maplink outside of Brazil. So the thing is, like, Brazil is a huge country, right? So I'm not sure if people have this, that, but we are like a 200 million plus country. So it's if you can travel like 5 hours and it's still inside of Brazil. So if you go from south to the north, like it can take you 6 hours. Like it's a huge country. So it's a completely divided. Like you live in Rio. People living in São Paulo, but if you go to the north, it's a different economy. So it's a very complex place to be and a lot of opportunities. So it's very easy for you to be spoiled and don't go abroad if you're doing good in Brazil. But the international expansion of the business was key in terms of and for me was very important. So I learned a lot on doing business with other culture, with other languages. So and I was like very much involved in when we decided like let's expand to Argentina, Chile, Mexico, and Chile and Colombia. So I was having like meetings regularly, like every week with each salesperson that we hire to understand what's going on, like the feedbacks. And I think for 2 years, every single week I was meeting these guys. So what's like a very for me was it's one of the best things that I'm going to take to my life, and I think that's why I'm here in Spain right now, right? So making sure that my kids will have this international mentality since day one, because this international expansion gave me this is much more like a humble way to do business, right? So because it's different, people like they have different backgrounds, they have like different way to do business. Like if you go to Mexico and you don't expect to have a yes as an answer anytime soon, because they're never going to give you a yes. Or if you go to Chile, if they say yes, you can just go to your hotel, open the bottle of the champagne, because if they say yes in a meeting, it doesn't matter if they sign or not, it's a done deal. So those are very interesting things that I'm certainly gonna I'm taking with me forever, and was the best thing that I could do be in front of this international expansion.
What's the best advice you've ever received?
Every contract is by design is made for failure, not for success. So when you sign a contract, if you're signing a paper, make sure that if you're signing is because you have to be worried on everything that can be go wrong, not go right. Because if it's everything's going right, why you're signing everything, right? So it's done. So that's something that we learned. We had like a bad experience with some people that we hire, and we sign contracts thinking that everything would be like a honeymoon forever. Even with our investor, like a few things that were in the contract made our lives much more complicated than it should.
What's the hardest thing about internationalizing a company?
The best is the same as which is the best is the most difficult, which is the cultural difference, right? So making that doing business with different backgrounds and different people, it's always a challenge, right? Because you always bring with you your upbringings, your sense of values, and in the other countries are different. They're not that different because they are better or worse. It's just different, right? So you just have to keep that in mind. That's why we always, when we decide to expand to a new country, we never send people from Brazil to operate the business. We always hire locally, because that's the only way you're going to make sure that you're doing business the way they do, right? So of course you can bring your point of view, you can bring your the culture of the company, the direction you want to go, but always hiring a local people, because they're going to help you to understand the market. Because sometimes you go to a meeting and then they feel like they leave the meeting, wow, it was amazing. No, it was a terrible meeting. This guy would never sign with us. So it happened. I thought that was fantastic. No, this guy was just bullshitting us all the time. That's the way they do business here, and that's it, right? So it's a very interesting thing. So the cultural thing of being a working is also very difficult in a process that if you want to do it, you have to really understand the culture and try to be with them all the time, a lot of time, to understand how you're going to proceed, right?
Makes sense. So what's your favorite business book?
So I am now reading one that is in Portuguese, and it's a very interesting name. The name in Portuguese is Você Aguenta Ser Feliz, which is can you handle to be happy? Which is it's a book that was written for a very successful advertising guy, which is very famous, and a psychologist that is it's only talking about successful people that are but in their within are not happy. They have everything that they could possibly imagine to have, but they are they struggle to be happy, or they are going. Not that is my case, but it's a very interesting point of view. Seeing that behind these very successful people, they are struggling. They can be struggling all the time. So, and I'm feeling very, very interesting. I'm very into this book now.
Money doesn't buy you happiness, but it certainly helps.
Helps a lot, but you have to understand how much money you need to be happy.
Exactly.
This is another thing that I'm learning in Spain, right? So people say that in Spain, like they are the lowest salary in Europe and things like that, but they are much happier than many other people that I know that are making much more money than them. They know how to live the life in their pace and valuing things that are important, and that's what I'm learning here every day as well.
Any entrepreneurs that you admire, and why?
I'm very fortunate to have a family of entrepreneurs. So I have I admire a lot my parents, my father. That I never heard about my father working for someone else than himself, and he was nothing very successful. Not that they were built nothing huge, but he was always trying. And also my brothers, they are all self-made men. They built their own business. They were. Even if they are not working for their own companies, they build their professional life in big companies, but they were all very successful. But so I'm very fortunate to have inside of my family surrounds this very successul entrepreneur life as an executive or as an entrepreneur, and I'm share a lot of with them. If every time that I have a problem or something that I'm knocking on the wall. It's easier if you have your brother to call or one of your brothers to call and ask for advice or something like this. So I'm very fortunate on that in that sense.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, Fred, we come to the end of the show. If people want to reach out to you, and talk more, where can they find you online?
So I'm not very active on Twitter, but I'm there at Hohagen if you want to find me there, and much more active in on LinkedIn. So if you follow me there, please follow, and I will add you or add me on Fred at maplink.global, and I'll be happy to share experience. I'm now connecting with more people here in Europe, trying to build my network here. So I'm super open to talk and discuss with anyone that feel that any of the things that I know is valuable.
Amazing. Well, Fred Hohagen, CEO of Maplink, thanks so much for joining the SaaS Revolution Show today and sharing your story. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.